So now that the draft is over, I've had a little bit of time to review the draft and check out the recent trades that have been made, which also means I am ready to complain. So let's go over this real quick. This is going to take a few minutes to explain, but please watch the whole video as I will show you exactly why the trades that have happened recently are bullshit and collusion. They should have been vetoed, but they were confusing and vaguely worded, and frankly, most of us probably didn't understand or have time to nitpick them to find out what was happening, because we all have jobs, kids, that type of shit. So I made a video because it is confusing. It can't really be explained through text, and if you don't see what is actually happening, you can easily miss it. Anyone who is competitive and anyone that wants to win or that pays $100 to be in this league should understand what's going on, so that should be all of us. This might upset a few people. Please don't take it to heart. It's not personal. I still love you guys. I'm just calling it as I see it. Lastly, I'm going to cover why Dan's trade was stupid at the very end, but for now, let's dive in. The first thing you need to understand is the rule of our league is a player's cost will increase if you can't afford that player. So if a player costs a 7th round pick to keep and you don't have a 7th rounder because you traded it away, the cost will increase and that player will cost you a 6th. This is important because this year, Dan did not have picks 7, 8, or 9 because he traded them to Devin and Bryant. Now, Dan wanted to keep Chubb, Ertz, and Kamara. Now, this is problematic because they would have costed Dan a 7th, 8th, and a 9th. And because he didn't have those picks, they moved up to cost him a 4th, a 5th, and a 6th because none of those picks could be used. So every one of them moved up to the earliest possible spot. So Sean sees this, did a smart thing. He decided to try and make a trade with Dan. Let's see how it actually goes. Sean gives Dan his 7th, 8th, and 9th. And then we're also going to include the other half of this trade to see what happens. Sean also gave his 3rd and his 4th. And Dan gives his 4th, 11th, 12th, and then gives Chubb Devin's 4th, and his 16th pick. So, once this trade goes through, Chubb, Ertz, and Kamara, Dan will have the 7th, 8th, and 9th round picks. So, Chubb, Ertz, and Kamara can now be kept at this value, and Dan will get all of these picks back. He won't have these, but he will get these. And the problem here is that it's in Dan's best interest to get 7, 8, and 9 so he can use 4, 5, and 6. But when you look at this trade, there is a 4 involved here, and Dan does not own a 4. It is a manufactured pick by this trade. It's based off something that he has yet to own. He does not own it. It's fake. It's a manufactured pick that does not exist, and it's being used as a tangible asset. It's a future asset that's not owned, being used as a tangible asset. Quickly to explain what I mean, a future asset to me would be something that is not owned yet. It's a byproduct of this trade. It's something that is created after any trade. It's an undrafted player that's sitting in the draft queue or someone on the waiver wire. You can't trade a player you don't own. You can't trade a draft pick you don't own. You can trade a draft pick or a waiver position, but you can not trade a draft pick you don't have in your possession, just like you can't trade a player you don't have in your possession. A tangible asset, on the other hand, would be all of these. And a tangible asset is a player, a draft pick, a waiver position, a future draft pick, such as a 2020 first round pick, but because that's something you still own. You still own that 2020 pick, but you wouldn't own it next year. So you can't trade something you do not own, such as this 4th round pick. He does not own it, and what that means is that this trade took 5 real assets and created a 6th one. So Sean and Dan colluded together to make a trade, and they took 5 picks and made 6 out of them. It shouldn't be a thing. It's not This isn't real. There weren't 6 picks to begin with. There were only 5, and now magically they both benefit at our expense and get a 6th pick. What the trade should have been, what it could have looked like was this. Dan gives Chubb Devin's 4th, his 11th, his 12th, and his 16th. And Sean would have given his 3, 4, 7, 8, and 9. This still would have been an awful trade, but it would have been legal. But this is not legal. Now, let's mark this down real quick so that we have reference. Trade 1. Excuse my handwriting. Sean gets +1, meaning he has gained a draft pick that did not exist before. He has created something out of nothing. He has created a fake draft pick that should not exist. So Sean gets +1. Now, let's look at how it affects the rest of the draft, or the rest of these trades, I should say. Now, Sean and Luke make a trade. Sean gives 12, 31, 43, and Luke gives 5, 42, and 58. But the thing is, this is the manufactured fake pick from the first trade. This is not real. So this trade should have looked like Sean giving 12 and 43, and Luke should have given 5, 42, and 58. Now, if you look at that, Luke is moving back and giving a pick. I have a feeling this trade wouldn't have happened without this fake pick. So, let's say trade 2, what happened here? Sean gets a -1 because he gave away the manufactured pick, but Luke gets a +1, and then Sean also moves up in the draft. So we still have a new pick that was created. It didn't go anywhere. It was just transferred to ownership. Luke gets a free pick. Sean moves up in the draft. Now, trade 3. Devin, like Dan, is missing some picks. He doesn't have a 4th. Devin wants to keep Ingram. Ingram costs a 4th. But because he doesn't have this 4th, Ingram ends up costing Devin a 3rd. So this time, Sean's back at it, and he gives a 5. Well, he gives the 5th pick. He gives the 24th pick, which is a 4th round pick, and he gives the 58th overall pick to Devin, who gives the 8th overall pick, the 17th pick, and the 39th pick. Now, this trade doesn't look too bad, except for the fact that 1, this was obtained through this, and 2, this doesn't exist. Jordan pointed it out, no one else really noticed, but that's kind of what happened here. This pick didn't exist. This is a 4th round pick, so they took this keeper cost, immediately applied it to Ingram, let Devin roll back and allow this 17 to be open, and give it to Sean. So once again, 5 draft picks, this isn't real, 5 draft picks are turned into 6. 5 are turned into 6. Now, this, when you look at it, this was immediately used as a keeper cost, so it looks like there's still only 5, but that's not true because it's not true. This is a fake pick. It's not real. So it was used immediately, and then Sean was given something that doesn't exist. It can absolutely be used as soon as the trade is over and Devin owns it, but unfortunately he doesn't yet, and this doesn't work. So what's happening is the draft is becoming saturated, and similar to the reason that we are not allowed to trade players that we don't keep in the offseason, this type of stuff devalues other people's draft picks. And more importantly, it's just collusion. There's two players gaming the system to benefit themselves and hurt the rest of the league. But to sum up this one, trade 3. Sean gets +1, and Devin moves up in the draft. So everyone here involved in these trades benefits. Sean gains an extra pick. Devin moves up. Luke moves up. Dan kind of got hosed, but he doesn't want to admit it, so we'll just keep going. To summarize, they're making these trades and absorbing keeper costs based on their future assets that they don't own yet. Well, yeah, similar results can be achieved through multiple trades. It doesn't matter. It needs to happen this way. Well, not this way. It needs to happen properly so that the integrity of the league can remain intact and the integrity of the draft. So let's put a name on it and see what actually happened here. This bonus pick that Sean got was pick 17. Sean got a top 20 pick for absolutely nothing, and he took Allen Robinson. So, if you're saying, does this really matter? Why are you complaining this much? Ask yourself, do you want Allen Robinson for free? And if you do, you should probably be irritated by this trade, because I want Allen Robinson for free. He appeared out of thin air from manufactured trades involving collusion. Now, Luke also gained a manufactured pick. I don't remember who he picked, but it was around 30. I think it was Cam. And would you want a free shot at Cam? I would want that too. This gave Luke more depth, and I think he won the draft. I think he had the best draft, partially because of this trade, though, because it allowed him to take a quarterback early, gain more depth throughout the way. Devin moved up, and once again, Dan kind of got hosed, so that's the review for that. But again, ask yourself, would you want Allen Robinson for free? Because I would. This is what happened. They used imaginary picks to improve all of their positioning and get bonus draft picks, or just move up. The last two things, recourse and of course Dan's trade. What recourse can we take? Well, we could redraft. I'm not necessarily saying that is the preferred option. I don't think it is, but when 1/3 of the league is involved in collusion, and basically they benefit at the expense of the other 2/3, that is a significant portion. That's 1/3 of the league benefiting while 2/3 are being hurt and their draft picks are being devalued. So I wouldn't count it out. I personally would propose draft penalties for next year on all of these players, and some of them, well, not some of them, and or all of them losing their current waiver priority. But let me know what you guys think. The very last thing, let's go over this trade. Dan's trade with Sean. This is just for fun. Dan gave Chubb pick 23, and then remember that he also absorbed the keeper cost for Chubb. So he also lost the ability to keep Woods, who was a top 10 pick. So even if Dan threw Chubb back, he would have been able to keep Woods, but because he absorbed that cost, he lost Chubb and Woods. So just keep that in mind. That's not really part of the trade, but you need to remember this. And in exchange, Sean sent Dan 20, 27, 29, 37, and 45, which came out to be Cohen, Hunt, Marquez Valdez Scantling, Goddard, and Goff. So never forget the day that Dan traded Chubb and 23 for Cohen, Hunt, MVS, Goddard, and Goff. That's a joke.